Let's start the video with a small note. That is, when there is a change or correction to what is presented in this video, we will update it in the description. So please keep checking the description as well before you proceed to the video so that you will know what are the latest changes. Okay, now let's move on. Welcome to TestTube, the knowledge feast. In this channel, we create the content that educate others. The mission is basically to gather like-minded people of different platforms and create variety of content at one place. So if you are also want to be a part of it from any corner in the world, please drop an email to sharetesttube@gmail.com. In this video, we are going to discuss on how to work with different variables in Postman. Before we discuss this, let's just recap what we have discussed in previous sessions. So in the previous sessions, we have discussed about the basic concept of parameterization. Since parameterization and variables are inseparable, we have to cover all of them um, at one place. So now we are going to discuss about variables in detail. In previous session, we have discussed about what is the variable concept and how it is linked to parameterization. And even before previous sessions, we have discussed all these test cases and we have learned these concepts which are mapped to these test cases. These are original test case numbers. I just added one more column so that we can relate them to the Postman test cases. Okay, now we are going to talk about how to use different variables in Postman. Okay, here we see that I just copied this request again and I renamed it to get users hyphen underscore types of variables. So it's the same request wherein we have the same variables over here. I just copied them. And before we discuss, let's go back to the to some theory. Okay, so we are talking about variables, right? So we should know first how many variables are there in Postman. So there are in total five types of variable. Among these five types, the three being the primary type, and these two are the secondary type is how we can put it. Okay, so let's see this primary type of variables. One is global variable, collection variable, environment variable, data variables, and local variables. And these are listed in their order of scope. So we're going to talk about the scope of the variables also. The scope is this way. Global variables means like uh, this is having highest scope in the sense like this is something which can be used across the entire collections available. Collection variables are one step below the global variables when it comes in terms of scope. The scope of collection variable is something like little lesser than global variable. This scope is across the collection. So you can use these variables anywhere inside the collection between different requests. So if you are having a chance that there is certain value which you wanted to use across various requests within the collection, then the best way to parameterize that is using the collection variable because it can work in different requests under the same collection which is defined over there. And for example, when it tries to a case wherein you wanted to use a variable across all the different collection variables, then you have to go to the global variable, which is having a larger scope than collection variable. And similarly, the scope of environment variable. This is the scope is limited to the environment. So this is limited to only that particular environment. We'll see in detail how to work with environments in Postman. Okay, and the fourth type of variable is data variable, which is a variable that is defined externally in the CSV files or JSON files. This is some variable which we are going to see in our data-driven framework. We'll see this also in later sessions. So we'll see the usage of these variables, the prime type variables in this current session, and we'll discuss more about the collection framework in detail later in a different section. Similarly, about how to manage environments, again in a different session in detail. And about data variables, we will see it while we are discussing about the data driven framework. And local variables are the ones which are temporarily created that are accessed inside the request. So like we see here, these are the different types of variables, and the scope goes like this is bigger scope, this is a subset to the global variable in terms of scope, this is subset to the collection in terms of scope, similarly this way. And when it comes to when we understand the scope, similarly we should understand the priority. So the priority is given quite in the reverse order. Highest priority goes to local variable, and then it tracks back to the other variables. So priority, in the sense how the priority comes into picture is, for example, if there is a variable with the same name in global variables, and also there is a variable with the same name in collection variables and in environment variables, and there is another a variable with the same name as a local variable, the highest priority goes to the local variable, and then to environment, and then collection, and then to global. So this is where this is, I mean, this is what this is describing about the priority. For example, if there is a global variable name named as username and a local variable named as username, the local value will be used when the request runs because the priority is given to the local variable. Okay, this is all about the different variables and in accordance to the scope of the variables. Now let's go to the types of variables. Primarily, there are two types of variables that are supported in Postman. One is every variable is by default is of type default, and there is another type apart from default which is secret type. So default type variable is nothing but just a plain text, and it doesn't associate with any other properties. So there is no int property, string property, nothing is nothing can be attached to this variable type. um, the default variable types, or somewhere you can see in the environment and global variables, when you are declaring them you can see a screen like this. So you can see a variable and you can define the variable names and initial value, current value, and there is one more column which talks about the type of variable. It can be default or a secret. If it is a secret, then you can't see the variable. So this way, the secret type variable is used for protection so that it won't be disclosed so much easily for everybody. And you will see this particular variable type uh, which you can choose only if you are a sort of registered user in Postman having access to the workspace. And yeah, otherwise you don't see this particular column. Instead you will see only the variable initial and current value. Currently I am registered with any workspace, though you won't be able to see it in my session what we are going to see now. Okay, so now let's this is the theory of variables. Now let's see how um, let's see this in action. Let's go to Postman. Okay, here, okay, like I said, this is this is script which is going to explain about the different types of variables which we have discussed now. Okay, here we have seen the page number. It's a global variable. You can see G highlighted in the green color, right? It indicates that it is a global variable. And in the last session, we have seen where we can see the global variables, right? Here we can see page number and base URI being the global variable. So we already knew what are global variables and where to find them. So you have to click on this I icon. There it will have two sessions. One is environment and one is global. Under globals, you can click on edit button and you can edit the existing ones or add a new variable. That's how you can do it. And similarly, in the same window, you will notice another session which is about environment. So at present, there are no active environments. If you wanted to create an environment, you have to create an environment, and there you have to declare the variables. They'll fall under environment variables. We'll see it briefly. Now we'll talk about third type of variable, which is collection variable. So here, this is a collection. Collection is nothing but, we'll discuss about collection in detail later. For now, collection is nothing but a group of requests grouped together in a folder. That's what is collection. We have two collections, REST API automation, and it is a copy of REST API automation, which is REST APIs automation one folder. Okay. Now, to access the collection variables, you have to click on that collection and you have to click on these three dots and you can choose edit. Then it will take you to a page where you will see that collection properties over here categorized into four different parts. There you have a field called variable tab. Under these variables, you can define your variables. So you can add new variable, you can edit the existing variables also. Here also I have defined base URI. You have seen already there is a base URI which is defined at global level. We have defined it at global level in our previous session. Now what I have done is I have created another variable with the same name, base URI, and pass the same values. Okay, you have seen it. This is how we can declare variables at collection level. So now we have seen three variable types. One is collection level variables, uh, global plus environmental. I haven't created environment variable yet. We'll do it in short time. Okay, now let's see. Let's execute the script. I have given a same variable name at collection level and also the global level, right? So like we discussed in theory, the preference should go to collection level because global is the highest uh, in scope, but preference wise global stands at last. So if you go to this request and if you see base URI, this one you see it is a global variable because there is no another variable with the same name. So it is a global variable. And if you place your cursor here, you see that it is taking collection variable but not the global variable. So collection table has the highest preference and the scope of collection variable is for all the requests in this collection. Okay. So, okay, now we understand what are these variables, but when to use these variables. For example, this is just a variable mm, which is with respect to this particular request. All right. So, but you wanted to execute the same request with different sets of data. Like in the previous session, we had discussed like we wanted to pass different variables, right? So in that case, this is useful, and also not only that, since this is a global variable, you can use the page number variable in any of the request, not only in this collection, but also in this particular uh, different collection also. So for example, if you go to the request, the same request in a different collection, there also you see page number. And if you see it, it is taking the value of a global variable. So this variable is at global level. So you will see the value as 1 and 2. So this page number variable is not only limited to this particular collection, it is also going to work even in the different collection also. So when you wanted to use a variable across your different collections within your entire space, then you go for a global variable. So that's when you use global variable. Now I'm talking about collection variable. For example, um, I have this collection and I wanted to run this collection in this particular URL only, which is uh, what is it? Rest.in. But you wanted to execute the same collection in a different URL, then what you can do is you can create another collection. There you can create a base URI variable again, but you can choose a different URL together. So in case what happens is only these requests will be executed with this URL, which is .in, and this collection, this will be executed with .com URI. So, mm, okay, what is the use of it? Now, when it comes to what is the use of it means, this is not a great example what I'm going to hear, but just to make you understand what is the scope. But when it comes to what is the use is that, for example, if there are many requests, and here you are using this value, and the next time you wanted to run this entire collection with a different URL. So instead of going and changing every field of this in each request, what you can do is you can parameterize like this and keep it in the collection level. So what will happen is this will be applicable for all the requests which are within the collection. So instead of changing a URL each time by going inside each request, simply you just have to go to collection level variable and change the URI, whichever you wanted to change. All right. So I'm not suggesting to use the base URI at a collection level variable, because it is worth using base URI at environment level. I'll explain this later. But just to explain the concept, I took an example of base URI at collection level. But in ideal case, what it means is, if there are variables um, which are in such nature, they could be changing for the requests, all the requests which are stored in a collection in future, then take all those variables and define them under collection, that particular collection, so that you don't have to go inside each request. For example, user is a variable which may have a chance to change in future, so make it as a collection variable and replace the particular word user with a variable and put that variable in collection. Later you can change when that particular user word is changed by changing the variable which you have declared at the collection level. So that's the best example to say it. Okay, fine, this is enough. Um, okay, this is about collection variables. Now we see about preferences, right? So we see that it is taking the collection level variable but not the global variable. Okay, now let me execute it and show you that it is not taking global variable. So in global variable, if we see, it is .com, and in collection variable it is .in. Let me execute it and show it to that it is taking .in, not .com. Okay, so the request is success, and you can go to the console, and here you can see it has taken .in. This is, sorry, not this is one, the latest one. It has taken .in but not .com, which means that it has taken the collection variable but not the global variable. All right, okay, that's more about collection variable and global variable. Now we talk about the environment variables. So for that I have created one more collection, and in this collection, using this collection also, I'll show you, demonstrate you that, okay, this is the same test case here, same, the collection level scope. This is a global scope, and let me execute this. Okay, where is this collection? Okay, let me go to collection variables. I have request.com, right? So I have request.com, and in global I have, like, let me put it request.in. Okay, I have to change the current value. Let me change that. I saved it. I closed it. So now I'm going to execute. Let me close this also so that it will be clear that I am going to execute from automation 1 collection. So this is taking the collection level variable but not the global variable, which means it is going to take .com request. Okay, it took .com, so that's why it resulted in error. Let us see in the console also. Okay, it took .com. So it took collection level variable, but it didn't take the global variable. Even in this collection also, we have seen the difference. And in the previous collection, we have seen the variable is .in. So you see .in. So this variable is applicable for all these requests, but this is not applicable for the request which is inside a different collection. So that's why it means that it is not considering this variable, but it is considering only the variables which is within the collection, which means the scope is within the collection but not out of the collection when I use that variable. So I close this and let me go back. Okay, so this is clear once again. What is the scope of collection? The scope of collection is within the collection, but not outside a different collection. Now we are going to talk about a different situation. So we are going to talk about environment variable. So here, what how to create environment variable is you have to go to this button and click on add, then give some name to it, sit1, and go on adding some variables and add the value and click on save button. This will create a new environment plus variables associated to that particular environment. Similarly, I have created another environment called SIT environment. Now I have chosen SIT environment. Now let us see what are the variables in SIT environment. So under SIT environment at environment level, this is the variable which is expected page base URI, and at the global level, page number and base URI, again the same value. Okay. So again, I have the same variable at environment level and also at a global level and also at the collection level. So the variable at environmental level is .in, and the variable at collection level for this particular collection is .com. Okay. So now let's see what is the preference over here. So I have chosen this particular environment. Now I click on this variable. It is showing me that it has taken environment variable for this particular SIT environment. If I choose no environment, then the variable what it is going to show me is collection level variable. So this is the perfect use for base URI. So when you have test cases which you have to group between different environments, in that case, the best way is to create environments like this, and where you will have option to choose your different environment, and under that particular environment create such variables which are specific for that environment and unique for that environment, so that you don't have to create this collection pack again and again. Instead, you can just change the environment where you want to execute the given collection pack. So that is the best use of using the environment variables. So in this case, I have chosen SIT. So it is taking the SIT environment variable which is .in, and let me run that request. So this time it is success. When I choose no environment, there is no, there is of course, there is no environment variable. So it has gone to the collection level base URI, and the collection level base URI is .com, which is not valid one. So when I choose the environment, it took the environment variable and gave the result to me. Okay. So this is about the environment variable. Now let us see another type of variable, which is local variable. For local variable, you will find them under the pre-request script or the test scripts. So here we have seen these requests in our previous videos. We talked about validation part. So what I have done is I have picked up this particular, let me pick up this particular test case, which is test one. Let me go to other place. There it is already created. So here I took test one And what I'm doing is I'm going to create a variable which is expected what is this total pages. So expected pages. I'm going to create this variable. I'm going to give the value 2 over here. Here I'm going to pass this variable which is expected pages. Okay, I'll give 10 and okay, I see expected pages as 2 which is there at environment level. Okay, and I have the same variable with the same name at local level. Now let me run this request. I got the response. Let me go to the test results. Test 1 has failed. It is expecting 2, but you have asked it to be validated against 10. That's why it has failed. Now let's go back to the environment variables. There you have given 2, but it didn't take 2. Instead, it took the preference of the local variable, which is local to this particular script. So it took 10. It took 10 from the local variable. So if I just comment it, now let me send that request. Again, test 1 failed. Test 1 failed because you have used these variables. The scope of this variable is local. All right. So this is within the script. This is not going to out of the script, and it is not able to recognize this variable which is there at the environment level. I Now let me remove the comments and let me change the value to 2. So this is the local variable and the scope of this variable is within the test script. So let me run this one. Now you see this test case has passed. So that's about the local variables. We'll see about the data variables in a different session, which is data-driven testing in detail. So that's all for now. We have learned about global variables, collection variables, environment variable, and local variable. Thank you for watching the video.
Thank you for watching the video. For more videos like this, do subscribe to the channel and share it to your friends. You can also visit the playlist in the channel, and those who like to read the content can visit the blog forverstales.blogspot.com. And for any queries or you want to join us, drop an email to sharetesttube@gmail.com. Bye for now. Stay tuned for more content.